clients who say, I don't know too much, like actually when you ask them the question, it's, I don't know. And they're really not giving a lot to the session. What are some strategies that you've used and to address that type of interaction in a coaching session?
Thanks, Britt. So I mean, we might be referring specifically to young people here as well, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't show up with adults or leaders or execs that I've coached as well. Most of you, if you've been listening to me, have probably heard me talk about this before, and I'm going to refer us to the Design the Alliance. So I know we're looking at this showing up in the session, I don't know. Yeah, one of the things I want everyone to think about is that real foundational piece of designing an alliance when you're working with a client. Because when you're designing the alliance, for me, you know, that first hour, I'm going to spend a good 30 minutes of that first hour designing an alliance. And beyond what is coaching and, you know, what does coaching mean, but really learning about the client. Because that is our opportunity, isn't it? Because we're not in a coaching session. That is our opportunity to connect with the individual. They can ask you questions about you, but also to learn about the client. So especially with young people, I do it with male execs as well. I do a lot of women in leadership work, but I feel that the style of coaching can be different and change. I mean, my clients always get an intake form where there's specific questions, but I also have background. Tell me about you. In that Design the Alliance, it helps me to learn and meet them in their world. You know, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? What might you like to read? You know, in that, I can learn a lot about an individual, meeting them where they're at and catering coaching questions. So for example, if anyone's going to chat to me, they'll know, I mean, even from my background, I'm spiritual. But I'm also going to tell you that I'm into superheroes, for example. Might be a surprise to people. Everyone knows I wear a Wonder Woman bracelet. Yet, it gives you a step into that person's world. So I find with young people, when I engage in that way, asking even about favorite movies or books or hobbies, you'll be able to cater your questions around some of those things. I was working with a leader once who I knew loved to bake, and she was really stuck with some strategy questions. So I asked her, what if leadership was a cake? And it connected with her. So thinking about creativity and connection points may help you to open up a client in a different way. They might then know, they might feel that they understand more. So that's the one piece that I wanted to share. And then the other thing is, we don't know what we don't know. So maybe they have never done any work on themselves in this way before. As I said, I work with execs who have not spent a lot of time on emotional intelligence or self-awareness. They've never asked themselves those questions. They've never had anyone ask those questions. And just as coaches, we train to be ACC, PCC, or MCC. That's the level the client's meeting you at. Like, I do a lot of work on myself. I still have a coach. I've been coaching for years. You know, you could go really deep with me and I'm going to want to explore. Yet when I first started out, I probably struggled to answer some of those questions. So we've got to really think about the level, once again, where are we meeting this client at? And for you to think about in that Design the Alliance as you learn about goals, that maybe initially you might have to offer a few more resources or tools. You're not advising, but you are facilitating someone's growth. What are your thoughts on that, Britt?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It almost makes me think of like, you almost have to think about the type of I don't know. And what I mean by that is it, I don't know? Or is it, I don't know? And those are very different. Like, those both really require, I think, different strategies. I think the first, that reflective I don't know, usually comes a lot when you work with a client who isn't used to being asked these types of questions. No one has ever, coaching asks such deep, unique questions. And it's very rare that someone who has never gone through coaching before would have been asked these questions. And so the way that I sort of like to approach things is with silence most of the time. I don't know. Okay. And like, let them just think about it. These deeper questions don't often have a quick, easy answer. And so letting your client marinate on it for a few seconds. I remember one time I had a client and they were having a problem developing a character that they wanted for their story. And I said, what do you think your character is trying to tell you? Or why do you think your character is being difficult? It was something along those lines. And they were like, I don't know. But you could tell in the moment that they were like, I hadn't even like thought about my characters communicating back with me. And that's something very common we talk about in the writing world. But it was just this moment that I realized like they haven't been asked these questions. They're not there. These aren't things they're used to. So that's a better place to be. That silent place is where I tend to play with that reflective, I don't know. But a frustrated, I don't know, or an I don't know that feels like there's something more there, that's when I would rely more on direct communication. What would it take to know? Or what's it like not to know? What's missing? Or I'm sensing that there's some frustration here. What's behind that? So even some direct communication can help kind of tease out, and it helps you build that rapport with your client because they can sense that you're listening and you're hearing them. You're not just moving past the I don't know because it's uncomfortable. So I think those are good strategies to use as well. So I'm curious to know, like, what do you think about those sort of the difference between those types of I don't knows?
I think that's brilliant, actually. Really brilliant thinking about the different types of I don't know. And I'm wondering if there might even be other I don't knows in there. As you said, it's for you as a coach to lean into that intuition as well, isn't it? And you also want to be listening out for any of the emotion that's around that I don't know. I've worked with young people before who've shrugged their shoulders and I don't know, a bit disengaged, or not connected to it. It's almost like, why are you asking me this question? I've had people say in frustration and anger that they don't know. And people who are fed up. I just don't know anymore. Mm-hmm. Which is a very different kind of I don't know, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got to read the room, haven't we, as coaches?
Yeah, I think I think that seems to be the theme of dealing with these challenges is how are we reading and thinking about our client's experience? How are we continuing to be the student of our clients that we talk about so much?